Okay.
Ready?
Yep, go.
Welcome to Follow the Boat's Q&A series, and this week we're going to talk a little bit about some of the subjects that have been coming up over the last week or so.
Yeah, but before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you remember a couple of weeks ago in an episode we showed you a rather beautiful old wooden boat here at Crabby Boat Lagoon on the Hard, and we wanted to ask you if anyone knew anything about it. Daniel Whittington stepped up and suggested that we speak to someone here in particular who worked on it, and a couple of other boats here. So we found out all about this, and it's such a fascinating history that we thought we'd do a separate little clip just on these couple of boats here in the yard. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, so look out for that. It should be coming out fairly soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, the subject that still everyone's talking about is heating. How are we going to heat Espar when we go to Japan and then on to Alaska? So it boils down to two things. Forced air or diesel heating, and we've got people coming down on both sides. So I'll just read you a couple of the comments, and then you can tell everyone what you're thinking at the moment. So first of all, forced air. I like the forced air heat, but I guess you would have a power shortage. Rob Psycho, why not Webasto heater? Raja Visha, Travelling Terry, Andrew Edwards, Sailing SV Slipstream, and CJ Hamlin say put in an Espar or planar heater. They are quite popular here in the PNW. And then on the other side of the question, Robert Evans says, I prefer forced air, but they are expensive. As a liveaboard who lives in BC, I do have a Dickinson Newport diesel heater and can attest they are well made, simple to operate, and provide loads of nice dry heat. And Lee N agrees. I had a Dickinson Antarctic. It ran at half power all the time, and the boat was toasty warm here in the PNW. So, what do you think about all that?
Yes. Well, I think we've made it clear that we have gone backwards and forwards on this subject already. And I think the general consensus among those who spend a lot of time in the cold climates come down on the side of diesel heaters.
I think so, yeah.
Just because they are much simpler to operate, there's less moving parts. I think one of the problems with the forced air systems, and I know certainly the earlier versions of the forced air systems could break, were more prone to breaking, and are quite expensive to fix. That said, it seems as if forced air systems are more popular these days, and one person in particular suggested why not both, just so you have redundancy. And I think that is where we're going to come down. We're going for the diesel system as our main heating system in the saloon, but someone sent a link to some cheaper Chinese versions, a couple of which are actually quite rated, which come in at a lot less money than the more popular makes. Have to understand here that in an ideal world, of course, we would have both types and we would go for the best options, but we are restricted by budget, so we are going to spend most of our money on the diesel system. But I think we can get our hands on one of these cheaper Chinese copies, because you have to remember, we don't intend to spend the rest of our cruising life in the colder climates.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the way we're going to play it is that we'll install both, and we'll have this forced air system which maybe will just heat up the cabin. We'll just use it to heat up the cabin. If it breaks down after a year, it could be that we're moving out of those colder climates anyway. If it turns out that we really like it and it's worth investing in 2 years' time, then maybe we'll spend a bit more money on a forced air system.
Yes, and if we really like being in colder climates.
Yes.
So that's where we are with that. There were a couple of other heating comments. I know your boat is not insulated. Do you have any concerns about condensation? To fight the cold you need 4 things: a heating source, insulation, a vapour barrier placed on the warm side, and air circulation depending on the relative humidity. And that was from Harry Bloom. A couple of people have asked about condensation. I don't know, have you got any thoughts on that? The only thing I found out when I was investigating was that apparently these Dickinson heaters and other variants don't give you any condensation. They're supposed to keep the place really dry.
That is one reason why we're going down that route, is that it is a very dry heat, and that is what everyone who we've spoken to who has diesel heaters say that's one of the biggest advantages, is that dry heat.
Yeah.
As for insulation, there's not really much we can do about that. I mean, there's no space in between, say, the ceiling and the underside of the deck of the boat. We couldn't put anything in there that I can think of. Obviously we have to keep air circulation going. One of the reasons why we've gone for the hard dodger is to allow us to leave the companionway open so that we have a bit of breeze, and we've got various hatches and port lights that we can possibly keep open even when it rains. So that's the kind of air circulation thing covered off. But as for insulation, it's a difficult one.
A couple more questions on heating. I would highly suggest getting an eco fan to sit on top of the heater. Until I got a fan, I wasn't completely sold on the heater, but now it keeps the boat very comfortable in the winter time here in the San Juan Islands. Ken Drays.
Yeah, I first came across one of these many years ago when my cousin down in Wales was redesigning, redeveloping, refurbishing an old it wasn't even a house, it was an old pub. He's very much into his eco things, and I saw one of these fans and I was fascinated by it. And yes, I think this is actually something that Dickinson advised, is to have some kind of external source which is moving the air around. So yeah, good tip there.
Yeah. And finally, depending on what materials you'll use to isolate heat-wise the cabinet from the new diesel heater, you may actually be able to keep it as a freezer with a side door.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think we can.
No, there's not enough space really to get that kind of access. So nice idea, but it's not going to work.
I don't think so. We'd have to buy a whole new system, little tiny freezer or something that you could open from the side.
Well, this is something else we've been looking at, these portable freezer systems, and I know there's a couple of makes out there that make very good ones. We have friends who use these things, and they make ice, which is something we have never had the luxury of. So yeah, we may look at that somewhere a bit further down the line, is to have one of these portable freezer systems instead.
Of course, when we're in Alaska, we'll be able to just nip outside and chip some ice out. So
well, this is it. We don't actually need the beer fridge, because the beers will just stay outside.
And finally, this little pearl of wisdom from John Rice. Why not just mount the heater on the bulkhead above the fridge? Then you can have your fridge and heat it.
I didn't get that one first time round, but I understand the joke now. Yeah, nice one.
Right, moving away then from the heating, a lot of people have been talking about the depth sounder problem that we had. Do you want me to read some of these out?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We had a number of comments about our broken depth sounder, which fell into two overall categories. Firstly, the DST 800s are rubbish, which is the one that we have. I'm on my third Airmar in 18 months. First, spurious depth, then no depth at all, 1 year old. Second, temperature sensor fail, 18 months old. My neighbour's Airmar has also just failed. I've lost faith in the units and don't trust them anymore. Just waiting for this one to go. Graham Turner. Somebody else says, buy 2 transducers, install one, vacuum seal and install the other one. What have you got to say to that lot?
Okay. Yeah, I think I was being diplomatic with Airmar in the last Q&A, because I had read of a few people with having problems, and you know, we don't want to be slagging off companies here. And as we said before, Airmar make most of the depth sounders on the market, so we're kind of stuck really. But I have read of a few people who have had Graham's problem.
Yes.
And what can you do about it?
I suppose in some ways we're lucky, because ours lasted 3 years.
Yeah, you know, thinking about it, I don't think we've ever actually had sea temperature.
No. Well, if we have, never seen what it is.
And the depth, as we said, I think we said before, was actually, with hindsight, we realised was slowly going. So anyway, we have sourced another one. So there's that. But we would also like to thank Steve Bateman, who is an English guy based in Koh Lanta, who we got to know at PSS. And Steve very kindly got in touch and said, I have a spare one.
Yeah.
He said the little plug on the end has been snipped off, but he said, if you want it, I've got it. So really appreciate that, Steve. Thank you, because I think especially with depth, one of the most important things in my mind was to have a spare. So it now means that we have a spare depth sounder. So if our new one goes down, then at least we have another one we can pop in and replace. Yeah. So thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate that. Hope you got the beers in payment.
The other question about the depth sounder was from a couple of people. Would you consider replacing your depth sounder with a forward-looking sonar? No idea if it would be practical or economically feasible. That was from Bill Baker. And someone else, Lorenzo Anderson, same thing. He uses a fish finder. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe as well as?
Yeah, I think it's a nice to have. Just one thing, I remember someone telling me about the fact that the way depth sounders are mounted, they actually protrude from the hull and can be a potential danger, especially if you catch it on a fishing net. This person told me a story of a boat that caught their forward-looking sonar on a fishing net, ripped it out and sunk the boat.
Oh no.
Now, I can't qualify that story. I haven't looked up to see if that is actually true or not. That's one concern. And again, the other concern is money. You know, we just don't really have the budget for that. But a forward-looking sonar would be a pretty neat bit of kit to have, I have to say. There are other options as well. You can get depth sounders which you don't have to mount through the hull. You can just mount them inside. Don't know much about those. And then of course there's handhelds as well, which I would still like to get hold of.
We should get one of those.
Yeah.
Is it on the list?
It's on the list.
Yeah, we'll get one of those. I bet your depth sounder fried from a lightning strike near the boat. It's happened to me twice, and a boat next to me had it also. That's from Karen Costner, who is in the same area as us. Possible?
It is possible. As we know, Singapore is one of the most frequently hit places in the world for lightning strikes, and we saw a lot of storms. It is possible. Again, don't really know too much about this subject and whether it's possible to take out the depth sounder and not your other instruments if you get, and you don't have to be struck directly by lightning.
No,
it can
that's
be,
what he's saying.
it can be close by.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a possibility. How do you prove it?
I don't know if you know about Life is Like Sailing on YouTube or not, but he's based in the Pacific Northwest out of Prince Rupert. If you watch his videos, you may get an idea of what you need to outfit for the area. Well, we've been in touch with Alfie right from the beginning, the moment we decided that's where we're going, or rather our patrons decided that's where we're going, and he's been extremely helpful, and we're really looking forward to hooking up with him when we get there.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
If you're watching, Alfie, thank you so much so far for your help, and yeah, look forward to catching up.
Yeah, hope you're enjoying the season. It's just started over there. Sorry, that was from Root Hoo. Don't know how to pronounce it. No, sorry, no, that wasn't. That was from Dinham Torp. Don't know how to pronounce that either. Another one which I think is really good. Hey guys, saw some other cruisers I follow do their bit for the environment. With your long voyage coming up, thought you might like to participate. He added to some links, some scientific research that's going on around the world, in which they ask cruisers to help. Thank you very much for that. That's from Root. And he, I was wondering if anyone else has any recommendations. It would be the perfect opportunity, wouldn't it, as we're going across the Pacific, to get involved in some of these projects.
Yeah, I know that some of these NGOs will provide kits for cruisers so that they can take water samples. But don't really know much about the subject.
No, and there's a Secchi circle which you dip to a certain amount. You can do that. Anyway, that's one. Would love to hear from any others, so put some links in your comments and we'll have a look at them. That's pretty much it, apart from Millie. If you remember, if you watched the episode where we thought she may have rabies and we thought even Jamie may have rabies, everything is okay. So thanks for all the good wishes after Millie's rabies scare and Jamie's, they're both fully recovered. A couple of people have said you shouldn't let her off the boat. Can't do that.
She's allowed out on the deck,
Yeah.
but one of the problems we have here are monkeys.
Yeah.
And not just a few, but troops of monkeys. As we sit here, we often see 20 or 30 monkeys running across the concrete here. And we've said before, there's a big problem with rabies in this part of the world. So having been through the experience of Millie getting extremely ill to the point where we almost lost her, because we allowed her to roam around, just don't want to take the risk.
No.
You know, yeah, it's not fair on her, but you know, what can you do? Do you keep her locked in and keep her safe, or do you allow her to roam free with a very high probability of her catching something and dying?
So we do let her out, but only when we're here, and we can keep an eye on her, and then we bring her back in.
Yep.
Someone's asking about what she had on her collar. Yes, it is. It's a GPS tracker.
It's not GPS.
Oh, it's not GPS.
No, it's not.
Sorry, no.
In fact, do you know what? I don't actually know what the technology is. I guess it's RF. Not sure if anyone can tell us, but no, it's not GPS. GPS would be brilliant. I think the problem with GPS is that to have a GPS thing on her collar, it would be this big.
It is. We looked at them, yeah. But it's a tracker. It goes to about 100 metres. We have a little thing that we...
Yeah, it's worked at about that range, yeah.
It's by TABCAT. We use it and it has worked very well. So if anyone's looking for it, TABCAT. But there are loads of others out there. So I think that's it. Is there anything else? I haven't got anything else.
No, we're getting a bit distracted because our workers are here. They're just turning up. It's just coming up to 8 o'clock in the morning, so workers are here. So sorry about that. This week, yesterday's episode, if that's right, so if we managed to get this out today, yesterday's episode has generated so many more comments and questions. We're definitely going to do another Q&A next week.
We will, yeah.
We also put up a picture and a comment about recycling plastic, and that's generated a bit of response as well.
On our Facebook page, yes.
On our Facebook page. Go and check out our Facebook page if you haven't already. But that's something that we want to talk a bit more about as well. So stay tuned. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We're about to hit 30,000 subscribers.
So very exciting.
Very exciting. Yeah. And what do we say, Liz?
Yeah, in the meantime, peace and fair winds.
Bye.